Assalamu alaikum students. So today we are going to start with part 5 of our chapter Human Nutrition. So starting with our first slide. Before starting with it, I would like to say something regarding the one more term that is called as what calorie. Nowadays we talk about calories. I hope you all have heard this word calories. Calories we get from food that we consume. Now, what is this calorie? We will see that by seeing our first slide. So it says about the calorific value of the nutrients. As our food contain the different types of the nutrients like fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. So all these are measured in the all these fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. Has its own value, and they are measured in the form of the calorific value. So what do you mean by calorific value? The amount of heat liberated by complete combustion of 1 gram of food. The amount of heat, whatever the heat is liberated by complete combustion, by complete melting or combustion of 1 gram of food, 1 gram of food in calorimeter is called as calorific value of that nutrient. This is called as the calorific value of that particular nutrient. Whether the nutrient can be anything, it can be fat, it can be protein, or it can be carbohydrate. Okay, so it is the combustion of 1 gram of food, the heat which is liberated by the complete combustion of 1 gram of food in calorimeter. Calorimeter is one of the instrument. So by measuring the heat, amount of heat in the calorimeter after the complete combustion of 1 gram of food, that is called as what? That is called as what? Calorific value of that nutrient. Now coming to the next word. The next word is physiological value. The actual energy produced by 1 gram of food is its physiologic value. The actual energy, the core amount of energy, the net total core amount of energy which is produced by the 1 gram of food is its physiological value. Okay, I hope you all got this content. Now moving on to the next slide. Our second slide, it says about the nutritional disorders. Now, what do you mean by nutritional disorder? Nutritional disorder is the disorder or the disease which occur due to the lack of any of the nutrient. It is the disorder or the disease which occur due to the lack of any of the nutrients. Any of the nutrient, it can be protein, it can be carbohydrates, it can be fat, or sometimes it also can be any of the minerals. So by the less intake or by the inadequate intake of these nutrition, the person suffers from n numbers of the nutritional disorders. There are n different types of the nutritional disorders like kwashiorkor, marasmus, indigestion, constipation, jaundice, vomiting, and diarrhea. Now moving on to our next slide, we will study today all about all these nutritional disorders. Moving on to the next slide, we will first see the first one, that is the kwashiorkor. Now starting with our first nutritional disorder, it is the kwashiorkor. What do you mean by kwashiorkor, or what is there under the kwashiorkor nutritional disorder? So basically it happens due to the protein deficiency, due to the deficiency of protein, or you can also say due to the lack of protein, and it occurs into the children of the age of 1 to 3 years of age. It happens to the children of 1 to 3 years of age. Symptoms are, how can we understand that the person is suffering from the kwashiorkor? The symptoms are underweight. Why underweight? As the children is suffering from the lack of the nutrient, and that nutrient is the protein. Okay, so the first symptom is underweight. Stunted growth. The growth of the children, the growth of the child will get stopped at one particular time. So why it happens? As the child is having the child is having a deficiency of protein. As you all know very well that the protein is called as the building block of our body. They are called as building block of our body, and it is very much mandatory or compulsory in the growth of the growing children's. But as due to the lack of the protein, the children's or the child, it suffers from the stunted growth. Then poor brain development. Poor brain development. Loss of appetite. Loss of appetite. Appetite means the realization of the hungriness is the appetite, but here is the loss of appetite. Loss of appetite means भूख का नहीं लगना. भूख नहीं लगी है, that is called as what? Loss. भूख का नहीं लगना, that is called as what? Loss of appetite. Then anemia. Anemia is the lack of iron. Lack of iron or lack of hemoglobin. Anemia is lack of iron, which results into which also shows the lack of hemoglobin also. Then the next symptom is protruding belly. The protruding belly. Belly is the lower portion of the abdomen of the stomach. If it gets protrude out, then it is called as what? Protruding belly. Then slender legs. The legs they become very slender, very thin, and slender legs and bulging eyes. The eyes are coming outside, as if it feels like it comes outside. So therefore, it is called as what? The bulging eyes. So all these are the symptoms of the Kwashiorkor disease. Then causes. The causes are or you can say the contributing factors. Contributing factors means because of which it occurs, or in simple we can say causes. So the causes of this disease is ill spacing of the children. Ill spacing of the children. A proper ill spacing of the children means between the two children's a good amount of gap should be there. For example, between the two children's at least 3 years, 2 to 3 years of the age gap should be there. Otherwise, the parents or the mother is unable to take care of that children, which results into the ill spacing of the children. Okay, so the first one is the causes is what? Ill spacing of the children. Then large family. Why large family? Because if the numbers of the members of the family are more, then the person cannot give a proper concentration to each and every member of the family in his or her proper diet, how it should be properly maintained. So as it should be properly maintained, if the less number of members are there in the family, then it will be very easy for the parents to take care of the children's. So large families is also one of the contributing factors for this disease. Poor maternal health. Then early termination of the breastfeeding. Breastfeeding should be done at least till 2 years of the age of the child. So if the mother is going to terminate the breastfeeding in early age, the amount of the nutrient will be very low in his or her body, as mother's milk is actually we can say mother's milk contains, it is best for the babies, for the young babies. It's best. It contains n different types of the antibodies. It contains n different types of the nutrients which are very helpful in the growing age of the body, for the growing age of the children. So the breastfeeding should be done. But here the cause is there. Under the causes it is there, early termination of the breastfeeding. Then late introduction of the supplementary diet. A proper supplementary diet should be given to the children's. Then over diluted cow milk. Cow milk should not be get diluted, or one of the reason is over diluted. It is more and more diluted and it should not be done. So all these are the factors of the lack of protein. Then coming to the prevention, how it is prevented. Protein intake. The protein intake like milk, cereals means all the dals, pulses, meat, fish, cheese, leafy vegetables, groundnut, beans, etc. All this should be given properly. Okay. Then um, in adults, protein required is 1 gram per kg food. In growing children, it is required 2 gram per kg food. If it is below the requirement, then it will cause the Kwashiorkor disease. So it's all about the Kwashiorkor disease. Now moving on to our next slide. Our next slide it will be going to talk about the next disorder, and the name is the marasmus. So this is now moving on to the next slide, and that is called as what? Marasmus. Marasmus, what is there in this? As it says about that, it is a prolonged protein energy malnutrition. The full form here it is written as PEM, and the full form of the PEM is the prolonged energy malnutrition. For a very long period of time, energy malnutrition or the deficiency of uh, protein energy malnutrition is seen in the child, or the lack of protein or the deficiency of protein is seen in the child for a very longer period of time, and therefore this disease is called as what? Marasmus, prolonged protein energy malnutrition. Malnutrition word, the word malnutrition means lack of nutrition. Lack of nutrition. Okay, so it's the first point is it's a prolonged protein energy malnutrition. Then it happens to the infants. Infants are the babies under 1 year of age. They are called infants. So it happens to infants. Then it contains all the deficiencies of nutrition. It contains the deficiency of all nutrients. Coming to next, if mother's milk is replaced by low protein food, then it will give to marasmus. Then coming to next symptoms. Its symptoms will be look like impairs physical growth. The physical growth will not be proper. Mental retardedness will be there. Mental retardedness will be there. Like mental health will not be proper. Then subcutaneous fat disappears. Subcutaneous fat means in the picture you can see a child picture is given. You can see how prominent is his ribs are looking. So this is called as what? Subcutaneous fat disappears. As all the fat, the subcutaneous fat, the superficial upper layer of the fat disappears from the baby of the child or the patient, and therefore it starts all and therefore all the ribs start looking so prominently. So subcutaneous fat disappears is what is also one of the symptom. Then limbs become thin. Limbs means all the forelimb and hind limbs, means upper limb and lower limb, means hands, both the hands and leg. Then skin become dry. It is thin wrinkled, which is leading to diarrhea. Now the prevention. How the prevention is done? Diet with adequate and a good diet with adequate amount of protein and other food should be given to the patient. Otherwise, there will be a Otherwise, there will be a great loss to the health of the child. Our next slide is about the indigestion. Indigestion, in normal words, in our words, we can say badhazmi ho jana. So, under indigestion is the symptoms are upper abdominal complaints, heartburn. These are the symptoms. Causes large meal, a very good amount of meal, which results into acid hypertension. Then how it is prevented? It is prevented by avoid overeating. The person should eat the food in a normal way. He or she should not be overeat the food. So avoiding the overeating. Smoking should be avoided. Alcohol should be avoided. Fatty food should be avoided. Weight reduction and taking antacids. Weight reduction and taking antacids. All these are the prevention from the indigestion. The next one is the constipation. What do you mean by constipation? It is the decrease in the frequency of stools. It is the decrease in the frequency of the stools. Stools are nothing but our human excretory waste, also called as feces. So, if there is a decrease in the frequency of the stools, this condition is called as what? Constipation. Coming to the next point, it's difficulty in defecation. Defecation means removing, sorry, defecation means removing the waste. The process, the removing the waste, human excreta from the rectum to the colon. So this is called as what? The defecation. So if the constipation will occur, the person will feel difficulty in defecation also. Then what are the causes? Are inactivity. Persons becomes with very lethargic, very fatigued, and because of its inactiveness in its daily life, the person suffers from constipation. Then low fiber diet. Person should eat a very good amount of fibrous diet, which gives stomach a very healthy and vibrant nature. Then coming to the next, affected colonic mobility due to neurological dysfunction. Example, diabetes mellitus, spinal cord injury. These two are the diseases which can also result into the constipation. Then moving on to the prevention of constipation, increase the dietary fibers. Increase in the dietary fibers. Then increase the fluid intake and exercise. A good amount of fluid intake should be get increased for the proper circulation of the food, and also exercise is also one of the necessary thing for maintaining the for preventing the constipation. Our next slide is about the jaundice. Now moving on to the first point under jaundice. Jaundice is the abnormal bilirubin metabolism and excretion. When there is the abnormal increase or decrease in the bilirubin production, bilirubin is one of the pigment which is secreted from the liver. And when there is the abnormality, when the person or the doctor sees the abnormality in the production of the bilirubin and its excretion too, then this condition is called as what? Jaundice. Then it also takes the excess hemolysis of RBCs. It also sees one of the thing is also seen is what? Excess hemolysis of RBCs. What does it mean? Hemolysis. Lysis means to break. Hemo, what to break? Hem means the so I'm so sorry for the interruption in between. Excess hemolysis, Excess hemolysis of the RBCs. Lysis means to break and hem means blood. So the iron. Okay. So heme means blood. So the breaking of the blood. So breaking of the blood components of the blood components like breaking of the RBCs. With excess production of bilirubin, then the liver can handle. So this happens in case of the jaundice. Excess hemolysis of the RBCs takes place. RBC is one of the blood component. As the blood breaks down, so it results into the excess production of bilirubin that the liver can't deal with. Then bilirubin are conjugated and water soluble, whereas there are also unconjugated bilirubin which are fat soluble. Extra bilirubin 40 to 50 micron for 40 to 50 micron per milliliter. Symptoms are pruritus in skin, pale face, dark urine, and whitish stool. These are the symptoms. Coming to the treatment, no treatment, bed rest, treatment of cause. No treatment. Only the treatment is what? A proper bed rest should be given. Or in case of jaundice, in case of small children also, sun exposure plays a vital role in treating the jaundice of the children. Or the treatment of cause. Treatment of cause means to avoid all the treatment of. Our next slide is vomiting. In this condition, the stomach contents are thrown out of the mouth due to the reverse peristaltic movement of the gastric wall. It is controlled by non-vital vomiting center of medulla. It is typically associated with nauseatic feeling. Okay. There are more about the vomiting. We'll see to it. So it's a reverse peristaltic movement. Then hypothalamus is also related to the vomiting. Hypothalamus is the one of the part of the brain. Then nauseatic feeling. It gives the nauseatic feeling. So all these are the symptoms. And what is actually the vomiting? It says about that. Coming to our last slide and our last topic of our chapter, that is the diarrhea. Coming to the last slide, that is the diarrhea. Now, what do you mean by diarrhea? It is the loose watery stools. Watery stools, very loose watery stools, watery human excreta, watery feces. So, this is called as what? Diarrhea. Watery stools, loose watery stools. They are called as what? Diarrhea. Then, when it happens more than 3 times a day, then only we can say that the person is suffering from the diarrhea. Then, people of all the ages suffer from this disease. People of all the ages suffer from these diseases. Diarrhea. Symptoms are the dehydration and intestinal disease. These are the symptoms. Dehydration and intestinal disease. So this is all about the lecture, and here I have completed the whole chapter. Thank you so much, students. We'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you all. So now in the next lecture I'm going to discuss all the remaining part of our chapter. Thank you so much.